The judgment. Holding together brings good fortune. Inquire of the oracle once again whether you possess sensitivity, duration, and perseverance. Then there is no blame. Those who are uncertain gradually join. Whoever comes late meets with misfortune. This hexagram is used by the sage to explain the force of attraction that holds the invisible cosmic consciousness together with all its visible forms. See page 59 and 71, hexagrams 1 and 2, and their relationship to each other. I'll be reading those later. This attraction is brought about and maintained through feeling. While the cosmic consciousness is capable of thinking, it is primarily a feeling consciousness that operates through the force of attraction between complementary aspects. The attraction between these aspects can be pictured as the two parts interpenetrating each other's consciousness, much like the weaving together of feelings of mutual sympathy. We are also informed that cosmic logic is not based on reasoning, but on feeling as its leading principle. Because cosmic laws are derived from feeling, they are called principles of harmony. As such, they operate more like principles of higher physics than man-made laws. The logic of the collective ego, by comparison, is supported by reasoning that is purposely separated from feeling so as to create the impression that abstract concepts not related to experience can be true. Such concepts are based on premises that form spells when they are projected onto things. When the key premise of a belief is discovered and consciously recognized as false, the spell is broken. This hexagram shows that the basis for a person's unity with the cosmos, and therefore also with others, is holding together with the sage in his presence, since the sage enables him to connect with his inner truth through his feelings. Receiving this hexagram can indicate that a person has replaced holding together with the sage by holding to fixed beliefs or customs. This has separated him from his unity with the cosmos. He is counseled to find the beliefs or customs in question with the help of the RTCM and rid himself of them. It may be the belief that people need to hold to something outside themselves, as expressed in the phrase, "everyone needs a belief," or the person is holding to a human leader or group to provide him with the truths of life. Or he may be holding to his family, friends, or mate when his inner truth tells him he needs to go his own way, especially inward. Such a person needs to rid himself of mistaken ideas or beliefs that separate him from his inner truth. Related to the above is a false image a person may have of unity and harmony with another. The image of a single circle in which both reside. This image fails to respect the boundaries that mark each person's intrinsic space. All unity between two people is made possible by their recognizing and respecting each other's boundaries, this being the prerequisite. The sage then makes their harmonious connection possible. An image of a harmonious relationship between two people is the horizontal figure 8. The two circles of the 8 represent the respective spaces of each person. It is their seeing the true self in each that enables them to connect. The point at which their two circles connect is love, mutual respect. The perseverance indicated in the judgment counsels the person to ask himself whether he has firmly established his loyalty to his inner truth. Then his relations with others are intrinsic, based on the natural force of attraction. Loyalty to his inner truth brings him into contact with those who are likewise firmly centered within themselves. Holding together, in the sense of being centered within, occurs when a person's true self is the sovereign within, the sole authorizer of the validity of his feelings. The person who is thus sovereign over himself holds together with the cosmos and receives from it chi energy and help, while contributing back to it his feelings and unique experiences. Because he then contributes to the cosmic evolution, he never needs to ask, "What is my purpose?" because he is all the while fulfilling it. A person gives away his self-authorizing ability when he adopts any self-images, ego, either to conform or to rebel against the collective ego. Both kinds of self-images keep him within the net of the collective ego and its system of opposites, because he keeps looking to it for its approval or disapproval. This keeps the collective ego invigorated, since it lives off the chi energy it can gather from people's dependence on it. The collective ego achieves this controlling role in a person's life through its promotion of the idea that the source of all evil lies in humans' animal nature, and that it is also the source of all human inadequacies and guilt. It also proposes that without its control and supervision, humans would supposedly run wild, creating chaos. People who accede to this idea are tricked into believing that without authorization by the collective ego, their lives would have no meaning, and without its conditioning, they would become the victims of their worst tendencies and drives. A person often receives this hexagram when he is questioning whether his life has meaning. He may have accepted the mistaken idea that his life has meaning only when it is directed to fulfilling tasks authorized by the collective ego, or he may believe that his life has no particular meaning, or that its meaning is known to someone or something outside of himself. Such ideas keep him from seeing that the purpose of his life is to fulfill his uniqueness by simply being himself. Spells connected to with this hexagram contain seed phrases such as, "There is no purpose in my life," or "I need to find the purpose in my life." These phrases lead to false conclusions such as, "Life has no purpose," "Accomplishments are what give life its meaning," "You are nobody unless you have done something important," "The way you influence others tells your life's meaning," "He, she is a nobody or no good," "He, she is an unworthy member of society." Such spells imprison helpers that would otherwise help the person fulfill his life's purpose. The traditional interpretation of this hexagram is given by Wilhelm as follows. The central power of a social organisation must see to it that every member believes that his true interest lies in holding together with it. According to this formula, it is the duty of organisations to give their members the impression that they benefit by holding together with the organisation. The result of this advice is that the individual places his centre outside of himself, thus becomes dependent on the organisations of society, or rather than on his relationship with the invisible world. It is in this manner that the collective ego appropriates the individual's sovereignty. The cosmic meaning of holding together has to do with holding together with the sage as one's inner guide. A person may receive this hexagram when he is considering ideas and beliefs others propose, which would draw him away from the sage or trivialize what the sage has said. In this case, the person is no longer sensitive to the sage and thus brings harm to the relationship. This is the meaning of "Inquire of the oracle whether you possess sensitivity." It also may refer to the person's retaining an analytical, suspicious, and aloof approach to the I Ching, and therefore is unfeeling toward the sage, or he may be expecting the oracle to authorize his mistaken views. As to asking himself whether he has a duration, this can refer to a person's having falsely attributed the cosmic help he has received to chance circumstances, When accomplishments achieved in partnership with the sage are thus appropriated by the ego, they gradually fade into insignificance. What makes success endure is the person's retaining his conscientiousness and modesty after having been helped to achieve his goals. Only then is there no blame. The phrase, "whose are uncertain gradually join," refers to the person who is willing to put aside his distrust. This enables him gradually to have the experiences that will show the sage's counsel to be true and trustworthy. "Whoever comes too late meets with misfortune" refers to the person who allows the ego to completely take over his personality. He thereby puts all his dependence on the collective ego. Such a person cannot receive any benefit from the oracle. Another problem, this is a really important paragraph, another problem is created by the ego's wanting. Ego wanting is not the same as the natural desire a person has when he wishes to be with his beloved or to be protected or to be nourished. It is a desire to get things or produce results on terms dictated by the ego. These terms contain mental considerations such as thinking he has the right to get what he wants. The person who engages in this kind of wanting exposes his ego demands on every hexagram and line of the I Ching, giving them a wrong interpretation. Wanting is also connected with wondering and worrying, especially when what the ego wants is not forthcoming. This hexagram is stating that the cosmos gifts its gifts only through the force of attraction. Attraction is lacking when the person stands, as it were, with his hands stretched out in expectation of cosmic gifts. The cosmos does not give its gifts in any situation in which a person is willing to throw away his dignity. Holding together also refers to refraining from dividing one's wholeness into mind and body. Traditional versions of the I Ching follow the Confucian idea that humans have a higher and lower bodily nature. The Confucians further assumed that evil is due to humans' lower or animal nature. The sage makes us aware that this idea violates the cosmic principle of the equality of all aspects of the cosmos. No one thing is higher or better than another. Furthermore, striving and applying disciplines to develop into something higher only separate a person more and more from his true self, which is, by nature, united with the cosmos. The collective ego binds people to its institutions through instilling in them ideas of guilt, insufficiency of self, fear and self-doubt, whereas the cosmos holds all its aspects together through the principle of attraction and love. The lines. Line 1. Hold to him in truth and loyalty. This is without blame. Truth, like a full earthen bowl. Thus, in the end, good fortune also comes from without. The cosmic consciousness holds all its aspects together through the attraction of what is harmonious and through inner truth. It does not hold anything to itself through force or threats. Holding in truth and loyalty counsels a person to hold to his inner truth. This loyalty brings him into harmony with himself, thus also with the cosmic whole. The full earthen bowl describes the abundance of chi energy that comes from being in touch with the inner truth through one's feelings, and the fact that they also attract good fortune from without. This way of relating harmoniously compares with the demanding and threatening way of the collective ego that insists on having the individual's trust and loyalty. The line seeks to make a person aware that he is under the influence of the mistaken ideas that he is born with original guilt and that he is by his nature insufficient in himself to cope with life. These ideas act in his psyche as poison arrows, making him feel guilty anytime he is not loyal to the collective ego and its values. So long as these ideas reside in his psyche, Certain spells cannot be permanently removed because guilt acts to reinstall them. Before a person can advance in developing his true self, he needs to free himself from these 2 poison arrows and also of the threats by which they were installed. Some seed phrases addressed by this line include commandments that a person must do something and imply or else. Right? Lots of that. There's lots of or else out there. This line can also concern pacts a person has made to be loyal to another or to something outside himself. In cosmic terms, all pacts and promises are incorrect because a person is meant to hold to another only as long as it corresponds to his inner truth. Such pacts need to be treated as spells or poison arrows. Line 2. Hold to him inwardly. This line is counsel for a person to hold to his inner truth and common sense. It also addresses a desire to end a relationship through giving up on another as hopeless. Doing this is what the I Ching calls executing the other's true self. It also has the effect of locking the person in his objectionable behaviour by putting a spell on him, and of starting an inner war that holds the two together in a cycle of mutual blame. Holding inwardly to him means not giving up on the person's true self, even though it may be correct to end the relationship. The correct way to end a relationship is to ask the helper of relationships to cut the inner connection, otherwise they will remain bound together inwardly. An unclosed inner connection is a channel through which blame, anger, envy, and other ego-driven emotions travel, creating projections, spells, and poison arrows. Line 3. You hold together with the wrong people. This line points to a person's holding together with popular beliefs that are contrary to the cosmic principles of harmony. Many of these beliefs are common sayings which have slipped by default into his programming simply because he has not consciously rejected them or questioned their validity. Being in conflict with his common sense, these phrases act as spells on one or another of his senses, with the result being that parts of his common sense are disabled. Receiving this line calls a person to find the particular saying that is active in his current situation and then rid himself of it. This line can also refer to ideas a person holds about himself or others that he or they are incapable of understanding something complex or that something is unknowable. Both rationales become an excuse to look to a human authority, be it a person or book, who seems to have found the answers. Holding to them shuts out the sage that is available to teach him all he needs to know. The idea that we need to possess a storehouse of knowledge in order to face life and to be protected against the future is similarly flawed, because it is based on the idea that life is an adversary. Such a slander on life creates a fate. The person who maintains his conscious connection with the sage receives the help and protection he needs during adversities. Fearing the unknown is based on the same assumption that life is an adversary and has the same consequences. This line also warns against holding together with another when there is no inner connection. This is obvious when the ego in one person is constantly in control. An inner connection can occur only between two people's true selves. Line 4. Holding to him outwardly also, perseverance brings good fortune. Hold to him outwardly also counsels a person to hold to the helper of transformation, rather than resorting to people or other external means to resolve the outer situation. A person may think that the helpers, being invisible, only handle intangible problems. This hexagram shows that the invisible and the visible hold together as one. The invisible helpers are available to help with tangible problems as well, because they create transformations where form and non-form interface in the realm of consciousness. A person's disbelief is the only thing that prevents the helpers from helping him with his outer problems. This line counsels such a person to look for those phrases and images that imply that the helpers can only operate in the way he imagines. Such ideas imprison them. Line 5. Manifestation of holding together. In the hunt, the king uses beaters on 3 sides only and forgoes game that runs off in front. The citizens need no warning, good fortune. The image of the hunt is a metaphor for troubleshooting, rounding up and shooting mistaken ideas in a person's psyche that lead him into delusion. The delusions of concern are those that prevent him from holding together with his inner truth. Delusions have their origin in abstract truths that have no basis in life as it is experienced and felt. They come about when people search for the truth as an abstract thing, as when a person searches for the meaning of life. In looking for the truth, people tend to project their preconceived ideas upon the situation. The projection then acts to influence what they see, confirming to them what they have anticipated. Cosmic truths, by comparison, are revealed to the person who keeps his connection open to the cosmic consciousness. First, by being conscious of its presence, and second, by staying in touch with his feelings and inner senses. Cosmic truths come in handholds of insight that are gained precisely when the person's awareness is tuned in as described. This cannot occur so long as he is trying to force his views upon the situation. Cosmic truths are also to be found through his dedicated search to find and rid himself of the preconceived ideas that block access to these insights. The search, which is also a hunt to kill the mistaken ideas found by saying the inner no to them, can best be described as a search for the untruths or half-truths that have come down from the collective ego as ancient wisdom, and which have generally been surrounded by taboos to ensure they will not be questioned. It needs to be said that societal conditioning disables and demonizes the senses and the feelings by regarding them as insignificant or inferior, since they are a part of humans' animal nature. So long as they are in this blocked condition, they are incomplete and uncoordinated, and therefore cannot fulfill their true function of revealing cosmic truths until they are freed. Receiving this line tells a person that he needs to make a hunt for the untruths that are blocking his access to his inner truth. These untruths are demonic elements within the psyche that keep him held in the enclosure, which is formed by a combination of spells as described below. The 3 sides of the enclosure mentioned in this line can represent the 3 primary spells put on a person that limit the way he experiences his life, and that are giving rise to the false conclusions he is drawing from those experiences. The first spell, a poison arrow, is the idea that humans' animal nature, represented by the game mentioned, is the source of evil. The enclosure is the trap that has been set to kill his animal nature. The second spell, also a poison arrow, is the guilt spell that accompanies the first idea that having an animal nature marks humans with an inextinguishable stain or fault that exists so long as a person is connected with his body. This third spell is created by the idea that humans are born into life without help. This spell separates the person from the cosmos, which can provide the help for everything he needs. In this metaphor, the king represents either the collective ego, which would like to appear as fatherly, generous, and benevolent to the person who subjects himself to its control and allows his animal nature to be killed. Or the sage, in the second meaning, the line indicates that the person has allowed the sage to guide his hunt for the demonic elements. Only then do the citizens, helpers that have been previously warned away by the poison arrows and spell mentioned, need no warning, because they are now being freed of these harmful elements. The open fourth side tells the person caught in the enclosure that he can always leave it by looking within rather than without. And by asking the sage for help, his reward is his inner freedom and his reunification with the cosmic whole. Half-truths and untruths related to the above spells and poison arrows are that the meaning of life is to be found in developing one's spiritual or higher nature, that truth is to be found through suppressing, disciplining, or overcoming one's bodily nature and its feelings, that one's feelings stand in the way of perceiving the truth, that only by getting free of one's feelings can one perceive the truth objectively. It's really important. See page 550, Deprogramming Procedure. Manifestation of holding together has two meanings. First, it refers to the positive consequences of a person's holding to his inner truth and thus drawing the helpers into his life. It can also refer to people who are holding together in a group we in order to show unity and create allegiances. However, since these allegiances include the helpers of the invisible world, they create a fate. Moreover, their unity, as indicated, is nothing but a show and therefore has no substance. Need to add, just I'm going to highlight that for a minute, come back to that. A further problem caused by commitment to a group we is that it blocks the person's connection with his inner truth. To free himself from the negative consequences of participating in a group we, the person needs to rid himself of all ideas that present merging his identity and purposes with a group as a benefit. This line can also refer to a situation in which one person confides his problems to another, asking for his counsel. The game in the enclosure represents demonic elements the person exposes freely and is willing to get rid of. This line informs the psychological counselor that he should discuss only the elements exposed and not address other problems that are not openly presented. Doing so would only cause suspicion and distrust and create a fate for the counsellor. Line 6, and then I'll go into my reflections. He finds no head for holding together. Misfortune. Holding together, here as elsewhere, refers to being within the cosmic unity, as opposed to being separated from it. This holding together occurs through feeling, which involves the person's whole self, including his common sense, which is a consensus of all his senses. No head for holding together is a metaphor for a person's having allowed some part of his perceptive abilities to be blocked, so that he no longer is able to perceive the inner truth of things. A complete perception is drawn from what we feel through our combined inner and outer senses. It is then compared with our inner truth to give a correct perception. These senses include far more than outer seeing and hearing. Our senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching operate both literally and figuratively, so that we not only smell odours, for example, we also smell intentions and evil thoughts in people. Things that contradict our inner truth likewise leave us with a bad taste. However, as we have been taught to disregard our inner senses, we have shut them off. Without access to them, we figuratively have no head for perceiving reality in its cosmic sense. See Glossary on the Senses. The collective ego, by comparison, would tell us that our ability to perceive the truth is dependent only on what we can see and hear. The two frontal lobes, being necessary to process what is seen and heard, are therefore viewed as superior to other parts of the brain, especially those parts that register and interpret feelings. Receiving this line is to make a person aware that he has allowed thinking to replace feeling. This mistake has occurred through his accepting the flattery that it is his rational and imagining abilities that make him brilliant and superior to other creatures of creation. He does not suspect, therefore, that his continued reliance on what he thinks of as his mind, contrivance, cleverness, intellectualism, and mental structures, keeps him locked in the fate he has created. The remedy is to rid himself of the disdain he has learned for his senses and to ask the helpers to help him to return to his true nature. See also line 5 for the spells that are behind this disdain. This line also calls attention to the fact that if a person allows himself to remain separated from his feeling consciousness for too long in his life, his inner light, Chi, will become extinguished. Then he becomes a walking dead person. In this case, the head he lacks is his connection with the cosmic whole. See glossary on the walking dead person. No head for holding together can also be saying that a spell has been broken because the ringleaders, the key phrases of the spell, have been killed. As a consequence, the rational logic that has held the components of the spell together has fallen apart, bringing good fortune rather than the misfortune mentioned. All right, Hexagram 8, called this in this morning. I got line 1. And holding together, when I do a crossover with the 5 personality patterns, is related to the leaving pattern, who has their holding pattern is holding together. And what I see here is that for someone who's holding their life together, trying to piece it together, trying to make sense of it all, you disconnect yourself from the cosmic whole. Because the leaving pattern doesn't like feeling. Feeling is uncomfortable. As soon as they start to feel, they disassociate, they want to leave, they go glossy-eyed, and the leaving pattern is at the root of ADHD, schizophrenia, ADD, a whole bunch of psychiatric illnesses, because it's the one that doesn't want to be in the body. It does not want to be in the body, all right? So it'll think its way through life. And there's so many leaving pattern individuals out there, the schizoid pattern or the leaving pattern. And what I find in the birth process is the leaving pattern gets most traumatized in the birth process. So if you have a healthy birth, you're less likely to just naturally lean into the leaving pattern or have the leaving pattern as a survival pattern, because in order to survive birth, you needed to go into your head to survive. You need to think your way through it. A lot of C-section babies, a lot of babies that were born through a traumatized birth, unhealthy mother, cascade of intervention, a lot of hospital births that were unhealthy or unhelpful. All of those lead to an increase in creating leaving type children. And in that, moreover, to quote, moreover their unity, as indicated, is nothing but a show and therefore has no substance. So for the leaving pattern person, to feel their body brings them into connection with substance. So the leaving pattern can puzzle piece its way into other survival patterns, like the merging pattern or the rigid pattern or the aggressive pattern. The leaving and rigid work together quite commonly in the matrix or in the ego world, because the brain comes up with the idea, mind comes up with the idea, and then the body just executes it like a rule. The rigid just executes rules. Really struggle with being free and stepping outside the rules, because to step outside of the rules, you need to question the mind. And when you start questioning the mind, you need to question your relationship with the unknown, your body, what is unsafe, and those can be really confronting. So for the leaving pattern person to really become into their body requires facing the terror of the unknown. There's a feeling there. Terror can be safe. Okay, terror can be safe. Unknown can be safe, right? And it requires you either working with someone or being in an environment where you can feel that feeling and know that, oh, look, I didn't dissolve. The leaving pattern person is simultaneously afraid of dissolving and being here, which is why this is the perfect gene key for that, right? Such pacts need to be treated as spells and poison arrows. The leaving pattern person can also end up getting obsessed with things of the invisible world in a negative way. Like there's enemies out there to get me. They're going to get me. They're going to get me. So they're forever cleansing and all that stuff, right? Some seed phrases addressed by this line include commandments that a person must do something and imply or else. So the or else is threat of annihilation, right, which the leaving pattern is afraid of, annihilation, simultaneously want to step into it and simultaneously want to avoid it, the double bind, okay? So the or else shows up in everything, like pay your mortgage or else, pay your rent or else, do this or else, pay your taxes or else, okay? So anything that has an or else naturally, not naturally, unnaturally gears the body towards being in survival, because you're, I've got to survive in the matrix, I've got to survive in this collective ego, I've got to do a thing, right? So to really let go of the wheel, which is what I'm doing right now, and doing it consciously by listening to my body, and my body is telling me to have conversations that are aligned, reaching out to people that are aligned, being in much more stillness and trust is really preparing my body for this next leg of the journey, particularly between AI and where we're going economically. Feeling guilty at any time he is not loyal to the collective ego and its values, right? There's a feeling of that in your body, and you've got to catch it, for example. And you only really feel this when the fates are activated, I feel, because fates help the cosmic correction take place. They're not bad. Like for me, my cash flow is low, really low. So I'm like, cool, what's coming up? What's coming up, right? And just being with all that. The way of relating harmoniously compares with the demanding and threatening way of the collective ego that insists on having the individual's trust and loyalty. Leaving pattern people are always looking for a tribe, looking for a community, looking for a place to feel safe outside themselves. So they're the ones that also like to get high as well. They can also love plant medicines and things. And they're the ones that are afraid to connect. Most likely to be anxious. They can also be avoidant, because to actually be in the body and feel your feelings is a real threat to them. It does not hold anything to itself through force or threat. So that's inner truth and cosmic consciousness. Cool. All right. This is the important one here. Another problem created is by the ego's wanting. Ego wanting is not the same as the natural desire a person has when he wishes to be with his beloved, or to be protected, or to be nourished. It is a desire to get things or produce results on terms dictated by the ego. So the must-dos and must-haves or should-dos inform the ego, from the collective ego, inform the individual ego to want for things. For example, like if you're someone who's watching this and you've done coaching before, maybe even work with me, and I ask you questions about your future, discerning what is the correct goal for your future is really important, okay? Because you'll find that coaches out there will appeal, especially business coaches, will appeal to those egos and the collective ego's goals. And hell, all coaches can, even relationship coaches can. But the most common one is money will solve your problems. 6-figure income, 7-figure income, 8-figure income, all those things. And so you aim for that as your goals. My son's just woken up. I'm going to go see him in a minute. Can push you in a direction that's actually not yours. So to be attuned to your body's feelings and what you want means attuned to your desire, which means a sexual practice. That means being able to connect to your sexual wants and needs. And if you haven't got a personal sexual practice, then you're not going to be able to detect your own desire. It'll be conflated with other things in your body, shamed even, especially if your sexuality has been shamed as a child. So I'm going to leave you with that. And thank you for listening to my reflections. Coming, mate.